I'm Joshua Hanlon here at the Brick by Brick exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, and I'm joined by Adam Reed Tucker, and he's going to tell me about the Golden Gate Bridge build over here.
Yes, so the Golden Gate Bridge, and the first time I've ever worked with the color red before, so that was interesting. My process is I do research. I buy books, a ton of books, DVDs. I submerge myself in what it was like to be the engineer, the architect, the designer, and maybe even the tourist visiting the bridge. So my tagline has always been capturing the essence of a structure, okay? I'm a realist. I understand that in Legoland, you cannot make things realistic. So as a realist, I keep it real and I say, listen, if I'm not gonna make this thing look absolutely perfect, then I have to kind of dial it back and express the essence. So I don't get typically caught up in awnings of buildings. There are other people that do micro scale stuff amazing with all the fine details, but for me, I try and take more of a 40,000 foot view. So I don't get caught up in the detailing, and that's actually an area where I'm not interested in. I'm more interested in the sculptural form of a particular landmark. So here at the Golden Gate Bridge, a couple of the things that were noted out to me when I was doing my research was the bridge is the bridge not just because of the span. The bridge, it has its distinct Art Deco styling because of the context and the time that it was designed and built. But if you look at the bridge, actually a third of it is preceding the bridge on the south anchorage and then also on the north anchorage. So I had to be researching the anchorage blocks that hold all of the weight. And then obviously on the other end, there's a famous landmark, and we had to, the designers had to build a suspension, or not a suspension, but an arch over that. But when I was doing my research, I wanted to focus on the riveting of the bridge, because there wasn't a lot of welding done. It was all done with rivets. And so at scale, these rivets would be 3 feet wide, okay?
Wow.
But, well, I don't know, but pretty close, okay? But what I knew, your distance of viewing this was going to be about 5 or 6 feet. And so I decided to use the studs on the plates to be my rivets, which is probably nothing new. I'm sure other AFOLs have done that before. But I overemphasized it, so someone who's not very familiar with Lego, the intended audience here being general public, when they look at it, they notice that it's rivets right away. And so that was one of my main focuses. And then the trusses here are all done, no tricks. You know, I think the proportions are odd. It's like 5 by 7, so that was kind of fun trying to figure out how to, you know, because Lego doesn't make a 1 by 7 or a 1 by 5. But the trusses all worked out really well. All of the cabling, I had to use red string. I did not want to use Lego cabling because the proportions were going to be too big for the vertical suspender cables versus the main cable, which is Technic brick, or beam, I should say, because a Technic brick, as we know, has studs. And I actually just learned this a couple of years ago, and a Technic beam is studless. So at any rate, if you will note, though, you will see that there are supports underneath the main spans. So this bridge actually does function on its own. It is supported. It turns out that when I first started doing this in my home, my hallway is only half as long. So it was interesting trying to test this. I had a little bit of a deflection in the center, and I realized that's because my anchorages were not heavy enough. So I actually had to do some number crunching to figure out what are the forces going through. So I actually had to have an engineering lab tell me what is the pull force of a Technic beam before it breaks. And the amount of weight going down through these towers. So I guess in short, this bridge actually acts like the real bridge. There's no tricks here. I could not, make the truss be self-supported. It all has to act like the real bridge because of the scale here. Now, if this thing was 5 feet wide, you could probably have the bridge support itself and the cables are faked in. With this, that's not the case. But because the exhibit's going to be here for a year, and because I don't know about things like creep, which in the engineering world is a term, over time gravity has effects, and honestly I don't know the joints between the Technic beams, how tested they are or what they can. So what we had to do is we had to put some supports underneath the 40-foot span here, and that's just to ensure that a year from now the bridge will still be here for people to enjoy. But the purist in me wants everyone to know that yes, this does work, and we will have some signage calling that out, because I don't want people to think that it was an afterthought or that, oh, well, this is nice looking, but it doesn't stand on its own. So it's important for me to have an authentic experience, as many of us all do. And but I just wanted to call attention to that. So.